Betrayed by my wife. She was talking with her coworker all the time I was away on duty. She says he gives her what I don't. Background: I'm a pilot in the active duty army. My wife and I have been together since 2012, married since 2014, no kids, 4 fur babies. We've had our ups and downs, but for the most part we're stronger than ever, or so I thought. We recently moved to a new location, and she found a job at the grocery store on base stocking shelves after hours. She's been working there for about 9 months. Our schedules are almost opposite, and sometimes we go days without actually interacting with each other. She works 6 days a week, nearly 40 hours, and to be honest we are somewhat dependent on her extra income event, so she had a few glasses of wine tonight, and passed out on the couch. I tried to wake her up to see if she wanted to go to bed, and she began mumbling about another guy. I was very confused at first, but kept my composure, and began to probe further. In her state of half-awake/asleep, she then began to backtrack after what I suppose was a realization of who she was talking to. She immediately fell back asleep, and after doing so I decided to go through her phone. What I discovered was a text thread between her and her close work friend, female, but was confused when I found a duplicate thread between her and someone else with the same name, but the conversation was more intimate. There were kissy emojis and they call each other baby. Playful, flirty banter. Like a text thread between 2 love birds. The thread has little chat history which leads me to believe she constantly deletes them. Upon searching the number on Snapchat, I found out his real identity. I then woke her again and gave her a glass of water. After helping her fully awaken, we both sat down at the table, and I told her, I know. She then told me everything. Since December of 2023, she's been talking to a guy she works with. I found call logs between the two that lasted several hours, and she says they talk to each other as they stock shelves. She said they would hold hands as they walked out of work, but that they never engaged in anything physically, and that she always carved his advances because she doesn't want to be with him. She usually works until 2 to 3 a.m., but often an hour of that is spent talking to coworkers in the parking lot before leaving. After talking for hours, she told me that she caved when he started to show her attention and affection, something that she says I failed to do over the past few months. She said I treat her like a chore wife, and that all I expect of her is to work and help keep the house clean. I feel as though this is my fault, and I failed her as a husband. I am extremely distraught, and sick to my stomach, but have managed to keep my composure. She's my best friend, and we've literally grown up together since we were teens. I know what I must do now to be a better husband, but I'm struggling to figure out how to do that while simultaneously forgiving her for what she's done and getting over this. I already feel less love for her, and disdain. Although she claims she didn't engage with him sexually, she's maintained an emotional relationship with him behind my back for the past 5 months. I'm so afraid this is the end. I've asked her to quit, since my income alone will keep us afloat, and because I can't concentrate on my job, flying a multi-million-dollar machine, knowing she's working with him every night. Additionally, when we first met, she was bisexual. I was okay with this. She told me she likes relations with women and relationships with men. Since then, I've been her sole partner the duration of our marriage. She also has a friend, the original female cover name, that she claims she's been flirtatious with as well. I don't think the relationship between her and the female coworker is at the level of that of her and the male. But things were trending that way, as tonight they were going to have a girls' night that was supposed to end at the scenic spot that overlooks our side of town. Am I overreacting by asking her to quit? If you made it this far, thank you for your time. Please help me. Edit, I'm afraid to leave her, because she's been dependent on me our entire relationship. We take care of each other. She also has a history of mental illness and depression. As distraught as this has made me, I'm very fearful for what her life would be like without me. Everything I've done has been to build us a good life together. She understands this, and admittedly took the risk because she wasn't thinking. Want to hear the next story? Story 2. My BF don't want to live with me. Am I delusional with my apartment, or is he just not good enough for me? I am hurt and betrayed. My BF is a great person and we have been together for 3 years. My BF is very frugal, and I would too frugal. He graduated with a degree in computer science and has been making decent money since he graduated. When he graduated, he used the FHA loan for a humble but small townhome. That I'm someone who differs in that I like luxury. Last year I got a nice high-rise apartment in a major metropolitan area and signed a 14-month lease. With that my rent was $4,100 a month. Eventually with other bills I was not able to afford it. My BF's mortgage is really cheap because his place is extremely cheap. Mind you, his townhouse is only a 2-bedroom, my apartment is only a 1-bedroom, but that's what you expect. You're paying for the view, it's near the top, the concierge, and the luxury experience. My BF and I had a talk because I needed his help. He would cover half my rent and then I would either move in with him or get a cheaper apartment. I could even stay in the same apartment and switch to one of the cheaper ones. I would have tried to move in with him but not at his place. He agreed that he could move, but we still couldn't find a place that works for both of us because he's so cheap. Anyway, I realized him and I will be getting married soon, so it's better to renew my lease and enjoy the high-rise nice luxury for one more year. I was dreading telling him, but last night I told him. He was pissed. He said, "So you just expect me to pay half your rent again?" I told him, "Well, obviously." He said, "Have you considered I like nice things too, but it's hard to do that when I'm sending you $2,500 a month." He said I would work with you if you were just bad at managing your personal finances and try to teach you. He told me it's worse than that and that I'm just selfish and trying to take advantage of him. I was angry at him accusing me of just trying to take advantage of him. That's not true at all. I love him, and the fact that he said that hurt. He just hung up and blocked me everywhere. I'm going to head to his townhouse today so we can talk about this. Any suggestions? Edit: I'm taking accountability and going to cancel the lease. Update: March 1, 2024. Thank you for the few encouraging comments. We are still together. We had a very long talk yesterday. He feels very betrayed and said this was a huge setback. He said, "Once I'm financially irresponsible because I make too much money right now that needs to be financed." 2. He thinks I have been using him. That still hurts that I told him I haven't, and I love him, and I've had opportunities to date men that make more money than him, but I want him. That he laid out some conditions, therapy? Which I thought was an odd request but agreed to it. Both individual and together. I speak to a financial planner and follow their budget. He said they do that for free. He said I need to show him I want him for more than his money because he's seriously doubting that and that he's not sponsoring me anymore. Let's listen to another story. Story 3. Wife has crazily long affair. Shall I broke up with her? Or I'd better stay unhappy but for the kids? Could use some advice here because I am stuck and have been stuck for the past 8 years. 8 years you say? Yes, 8 years now. Before this starts, please don't be that person in comment saying some BS. I would appreciate any and all advice. So, to begin, I am 34, have been married for going on 13 years to my wife, F35. Met in college and have been together ever since, 16 years total. About 8 years ago, I discovered she was having an affair with a coworker. She was having an emotional affair, and nothing had happened. We have 2 children, 10 and 11, who are my world. The issue I am having is, I do not trust her in the slightest and am extremely tired of it. As they say, my bucket has filled up and I'm sick of wondering what is true and what is not. Here is some background on the situation. I am going to be as transparent as I can be without giving up too much information. I am by no means a perfect person and am willing to admit my faults here, so just bear with me. So, we met in college and fell in love. It was within the first month or so that I knew I was going to marry my wife. We fell head over heels in love and were off to the races. We graduated college and bought our first house together. Shortly thereafter, we found out we were expecting and then got hitched as well. While in college, I developed one hell of a drug/alcohol problem that I dealt with for a solid 6 years. When our first child was born, I was high in the delivery room. When our second was born, it was much the same. I destroyed her trust by following this path of self-destruction. It was not until a year after our second child was born that I finally got clean. This put a significant strain on our marriage, and again, I see my fault here. While being sober for only 3 months, I found out my wife was having an affair with her coworker. This dude is significantly older by over 12+ years. I confronted my wife, and we talked it through. We wanted to fight to make this work. She claimed that my addiction drove her away and that she wanted to be with me. Yes, I know how cheaters work now. So, we went on a path to work on us, cut to about 6 months later, and she is still talking to this dude. I flipped out and we begin to fight. I threaten to leave and she promises me the world. I foolishly believe her yet again. She swears nothing happened other than them talking. If you are unable to hear my sarcasm, I will search for the sarcasm button to add in later. We attend counseling and work on ourselves. I honestly hated counseling because I was always the bad guy. It was all my fault that she cheated, but we are unable to figure out why she keeps talking to him. This behavior continues on for the next few years. It broke my trust in her, and at that time, I began to bide my time that I'm sure someone is going to say, well, why didn't you just divorce her? That is a great point. I'm not sure how to put this, but she is highly emotional and is a slave to her emotions. If she gets angry, she is going to let you know it. If she feels offended, be ready to hear about it. I joke that she is a Karen, but it's not really a joke. She loses her mind pretty quick. As the years have gone by, she has gotten better about it and matured, but she still is quick to fly off the handle. Now, add in 2 young, impressionable kids, and I do not know if she would have the children's best interests at heart. Honestly, I was scared the first time I truly thought about divorce. I wasn't worried about child support, alimony, or anything like that. I was worried about what would happen to my children. So, as cliched as it sounds, I stayed for them. Plus, we were so broke and in debt that we would have just been splitting debt rather than assets. So, that is the reason that I have stayed. Plus, add in just being sober for a bit and being fragile in general in the beginning, and that is why. In 2019 she decided she wanted to go back to school to get her degree to get a better job. She went to school for a year part-time and got her degree while working full-time still. I became the housekeeper and caretaker of our children. She was just so busy that when she was not working, she was going to school. It was a year of hell for me while working full-time and taking care of literally everything at home. She finally graduates and gets a job making really good money. It is at this time that I discover her talking to the AP yet again. Something broke in me when this happened. This was the umpteenth time and I told her I was done. It was over. She finally swore to end it. I told all of her and my family and let them know what she was doing. She was pissed, but whatever. At this time our children were still young, and it scared me to death to have to split custody with her. My kids are my life. They are legitimately the only reason I am still alive. So, I left and spent a few days away. When coming home after 3 days away, I came home to a very sad house. My kids were just sad and melancholy. It was a very bad few days for them. Apparently, my wife was yelling and angry all the time. So, like a fool, I stayed. Then, the housing craze went off and I talked my wife into selling our house so we could make a bundle and clear our debts. She agreed and we finally had a chunk of change in the bank. We found a house, rented it and have been here ever since the end of 2020. I will say, relocating and her changing jobs has helped immensely. It was like a fresh start. Then, I lost my pretty decently paying sales job and hit a wall of depression. It was a rough few months, but she supported me. It was weird, almost like having the spouse I originally married. My initial plan was to split the money, split custody, and go our separate ways. But I was interested in seeing where this was going. We were like a new couple again, with the past behind us and starting anew. I am even completing my degree from forever ago and already have a job lined up. Does anyone else see where this is going? Well, congratulations if you do. Just last week, I was on her computer, and she had her Facebook tab open. Of course, I clicked on the tab and wouldn't you know it? She had searched this dude up on Facebook and was friends with him. Imagine my shock. So, I confronted her again. She swears she has no clue how she is friends with him. She admits to searching him up on FB, but only because she saw he posted an article. Like, how would you see an article if you weren't friends with him? She started giving explanations and I just said, why bother? It did not seem to matter to me anymore. And of course, all the old feelings of hate, resentment, betrayal, etc. all came back to the surface. There may have been a reprieve, but here we are back to what I absolutely hate. She still swears nothing physical ever happened between them and that it was only emotional. I do not believe her in the slightest, but I do not have any proof. We seemed like we were in a good place together, but now I question everything yet again. So, in the effort to find some information on this and prove it without a shadow of a doubt, how does one go about this? I have really toyed with the idea of a polygraph and forcing her to go through with it. Years ago, right before we sold the house, I was going to make her take one. But part of me did not want to know the truth and another wanted to just fix our relationship and move on. Now, if I am going to stick this out for the kids, I want to know. Does anyone have any suggestions on how to prove/disprove her claims? As I write this dissertation, I figure I am going to catch flack for not just bouncing after the first or fifth time I found her talking to him. All the time I found them talking, there was never anything about the meeting or physical talk. They said they wanted to, but there was never any concrete evidence that they did. It would be awesome to be able to have that evidence in the form of a polygraph test, so then I could show my kids when they got older. I would be devastated to have to share custody, but I am more fearful of how my wife would weaponize the children. Any help at all would be wonderful. Thanks everyone. It's the final story for this video. Let's listen. Story 4. My STBX broke into the house and almost killed me and my children for another girl. Oh my God, what should I do? I say all of this without exaggeration. I am certain he was getting ready to kill us. After nearly 8 months of turmoil, I'm finally close to understanding that my soon-to-be ex-husband is in love with a woman he came across on social media and he has been obsessing over her for at least a year. She also happens to be a sex worker and he was paying her for her time and attention. In his mind he believed they could have a future together if only he could get rid of my children and me. Even though this woman gave him no inkling that she even wanted to be with him. He has spent so much of our money on this woman. I am at a loss for words that could accurately describe the situation. I can barely believe half of the things he's been up to. I've spent the past few weeks playing detective and I finally decided to contact Jessica. This is obviously not her name, but I need to call her something. I contacted Jessica and at first, she was very reluctant to speak to me, but I literally begged her to and she was kind enough to get on the phone with me. She told me that she had been seeing him for a while, but she stopped seeing him because he started to scare her. He was sending her unhinged messages and voicemails. He had been stalking her and trying to convince her to be with him. Jessica eventually stopped seeing him and had him blocked, and I guess this is when he started to escalate from emotional abuse to physically abusing my children and myself. He was looking for a way out and in his crazy mind, killing us would free him because the only reason Jessica wouldn't be with him was because me and my children were in the way. During our long call I also explained to Jessica what had been happening to me and she was genuinely kind and helpful. She also agreed to speak to my lawyer and to send them the thousands of unhinged texts, voicemails and voice notes he sent her. For a little while after our conversation, a part of me genuinely hated Jessica and wanted to blame her for everything, but the rational part of me pushed out those unreasonable and dangerous thoughts, especially after I read his disturbing texts and heard his voicemail/notes to Jessica. She has also been victimized by him. Honestly, there is nothing like listening to your husband and father of your children talk about how you and your children mean nothing to him and how he wishes you were dead. He could have just asked for a divorce or just got up and left. I sent him a few texts asking him why. This was a one-time thing and since then I've stopped all contact. Why do all of this? Why torment my babies? Why not just walk away? He responded with a message saying any conversation between us should be through our lawyers. His parents have him lawyered up. They know what he's been up to and they've chosen to protect him. His father came to see me and in a not-so-direct way suggested he could pay me if I stopped talking about what his son had done and was planning on doing. Ever since he broke into the house and pretty much tried to kill me, I've told anyone who'd listen what he has done. At this point even his colleagues know.